Well, welcome back. This is graphical user interface application development using Lazarus and free Pascal, and this is part 11. Okay, today we're going to fix a few bugs, and we're back to our application. Let's go to the source code editor. And let's take a look at our random file I/O procedures and functions. I think they're all functions. They all return values, don't they? Yeah, they do. Okay, well, I was once again reviewing my code, and I noticed a few problems, and we're going to correct those right now before we move on and do anything else today. You know how I always say, if you have a begin, you must have an end? Well, if you have a file open or create, then you must have a file close. All right? So for example, here in our file create, we set file handle to the file create function, which is provided by the free Pascal runtime library. When that's executed, that handle gets populated. And when we're done using it, it must be closed. That file handle must be closed. All right? Now, if the file handle is not successfully created, you don't have to close it because there's nothing to close. Okay? So let's look at our file append, random file append function. And here we also can do, it's possible to do a file create, right? And if we're not successful, then we just exit. That's fine. If we get further along and we actually open up the file successfully and we get a file handle back, then somewhere along the line we're going to have to close it. So here we're opening the file and populating the file handle, and then we test to see if it was a successful open or not, and we stay in that loop until it's successfully opened or until the number of attempts have been exceeded. And if the file handle is not opened, which is what t handle -1 means, then we can just exit. There was no file handle open. Then we move on to doing a position. So here we have file seek, and if the seek was not successful, you see what we do? We close the handle and then exit. That's correct. The next step is if the seek was successful, then we go ahead and do our write. And our write, as soon as it's completed, whether it's successful or not, it closes the file handle. So that's okay. Now we're down to file read. File read. Here we open it right here. File handle is populated. Possibly. If it wasn't successful, we exit, which is fine. But from this point on, it is open. So we compute the offset for the record number we've given it. We do a seek. And if the seek wasn't successful, we can't just exit. We have to do a file close. So this is a bug right here. So this has to change. We have to do a begin, and it automatically plugged in the end for us, right? And now we must do a file close. We can't leave that file handle dangling. All right, so that fixed that one. All right, so now if the seek fails, we close the handle and exit. That's now correct. Here we do the read. When we do the read, We return a status. We don't even check the status. We know that whether it was good or bad, we go ahead and close the file handle, and then we check to see if the status is okay, and if it wasn't, we just return this -4 error code. Otherwise, we set the read to 0, which means successful. Let's move on to the right. Okay, we attempt to open the file. If we get beyond this point, the file is open. And we now do a seek. When the seek fails, we didn't close it, and we need to do that. So we have to add that begin, and we have to do the file close, and it's not fly close, it's file close, and pass it the handle, which is T handle, right? No, F handle. F handle. Okay. I got to go back up and see if did I use T handle or F handle up here. It's F handle. Okay. Here's where we attempt to write the record. We do a file close immediately after, so this one is also okay. All right. Another thing that's interesting is when you do a write and you pass it this record size that you're going to write, the status that's returned is actually the number of bytes that were written, okay? So istat is number of bytes written. So if the status, which is the number of bytes written, is less than what we told it to write, that's a problem. That's an error, and that's why it's returning -4 if that happens. Otherwise, it returns a 0. Up here in our read, let's go back to our read. Okay, this is the read function. And here I'm saying if istat, no, it's not here. Here it is, istat. This is kind of a mistake, because if the read returns fewer bytes than the record size, I would consider that a read error. In other words, if your record is 64 bytes long and it returns 52 read, then that's an error. So what I should say here is if istat is less than irec size, then it's an error. That's more accurate. And I think where else could that happen? Possibly in an append, right? So here's the append function. Do I check the size? No. Again, I return istat less than 0. Well, for a seek, that's true. Istat is less than record size, so I did it properly here. Okay, I did it properly there. And that's all of the functions. All right, so we've fixed those functions. Let's do a Control S and save that. All right, now we can go back to our login screen, which was unit logon. And if we look at our window, this is where we were failing. And we were failing because now this file exists. And we don't have, from this begin to this end, that handles when the file doesn't exist. Well, what if the file exists? This is where we are right now. So if we fall through the bottom of that if, our file exists. And we have to do things a little differently. So right here, we go, let's just throw a comment here. Is that right? Yeah. Now, did I put a comment above this with this other block? Yeah, there is no established file. Okay. So now we're going to say there is an established file path. All right. At this point. And the file does exist. Now, this is OR. So we need to check if the file exists. So we do need to test if the file exists here. All right. There is an established file. And now we need to test, does the user's dat, I guess we could call this the password file, exist. And we will say, and we will just repeat that if up above. So we have if, and we take this code from up here. So we just do this. Okay, and do Control C to copy it. Then come back down here. And now we do a Control V to copy it in there. And it is done. All right. And we have a begin, so we need an end. Like that. End. All right. So now we're ready to put some code in. If this file exists, now we have to see if the user, if the password that's been typed in, if the ID, user ID and password that's been typed in is correct. So here's where we need to do another MD5. And I think one thing we could check for right away is if either field is empty, it's a failure right away. I mean, they have to supply a user ID and they have to supply a password, right? I could have done that way back here. Could have done that way back. Add code here to handle the reading of the user file. Okay, well that's what we're doing now. So this comment here can come out because that's what we are actually working on at this point. Okay, get rid of that. All right. And okay, so the file exists. So we're going to have a loop because we're going to have to read all of the records that are in the user's file. Yeah. So let's go to our users add unit. And let's see if we can grab, here's where we do the MD5 computation. So what we will do here So let's just grab this code. Control C to copy it. Come back over here to log on. And let's paste it in here. Control V. All right. And what are the fields? The first field is edit user ID, and that's the same. So it's edit user ID text. And what's the other one called in here? Oh, you know what? I'm looking at the wrong. No, I'm not. I'm looking at the right thing. If I look at this. Yeah. Yeah. So we type in the text field for the ID is edit user ID, which was the same as in the user add screen. And let's see. It's not edit user password. It's just edit password. So that's what I got to put in here is just edit password. Change that. Now it's correct. And if I'm computing MD5, I have to have it in uses clause. So we got to come up here in our uses and put MD5 in. Okay, so we've just done that. Okay. Now the question is, do I want to wait until the file has, I guess so. Why calculate that if the file doesn't exist? Because I won't be comparing anything. So yeah, it makes sense to put this here. Right? Okay. And now we're going to have a loop. We're going to have a loop, and it's an infinite loop. So, yes. And we're going to need a record number because we're going to be counting through records in the file. So in this procedure, we're going to have variables, and one of them is going to be no. Okay? And that's an integer. And that points to record being read. All right, and it goes from 0 up to some number, depending on how big the file is. So at this point, we would go ahead and set no will be set equal to 0. It's the starting record. And then we'll have our infinite loop, which is while true, do begin. Have to make sure, yes, it put the end in for us. I don't know why it indents so far. I think it's using smart tabs or something, which aren't that smart. Okay, so here's where we do our file read. Oh, we have to have a handle, don't we? So we better put a file handle in here. F handle is T handle. Okay. Right. And is that right? Do we need T handle? No, we don't need a T handle. That's all handled. That's handled by our functions. Don't need T handle. That's all handled. That's all taken care of us already. So now we're going to do our random file read, I guess. So we're going to have a status. Yes, we're going to have a status. So that'll come next. So we'll just say istat, and that's an integer. Okay, and we come down here, And yeah, now we're going to do an istat. Stat is equal to random file read, and we need and we're needing our file IO in our uses clause here. Yes, so we need to reference UR file IO. It's got to be referenced in here. All right. So now, there we go. You notice now it's giving me my, it's now supplying the prototype. It wasn't doing that till I put that UR file IO reference in the uses clause. Now it's doing it because it finds it. All right, so we're doing a random file read, and we have to supply it the name, and the name of the file is this. Copy that. And yes, that works. All right. And what's the next thing we need? We need the record number. And that'll be on the next line here. And that's rec no. And then we need the record size. Oh, and we don't have a buffer yet, do we? Now we need to add our buffer in here. And the buffer is, oh, and that means we also now need to have the type. Right? So right in here, we're going to have our include file. So to include the file, we use a curly brace and a $sign. And then we say include. And then the name of the include file, and it's user rec.inc. And now that will include our type. And then down here in our function, we need urec. What did we call it before? What did we call it? We called it USR rec. Well, let's just be consistent. So we're going to have a USR rec, and it's going to be a type USR rec. I think that's right. Let's take a look in our include file. Yes, USR rec. So that's correct. Alrighty. We're getting there. So we were at the point where we're reading the record, and it needs a record size. Oh, and where's the record I'm reading? So what's next after the IREC? The name of the file, the record number, then the pointer to the record. The pointer to the record comes next, and we just pass it at USR rec Yeah, I goofed up there. The next thing is after the name of the file. Oh, I've got that. I still messed that up. Yeah, this is. Get rid of that. Shift insert. Okay, now it's correct. So it's the name of the file, the record number we're reading, the record buffer, the beginning of the record where we're going to write, where the information is read into, and then finally it's the record size. And that is, size is given by size of, and that's supposed to be USR, not URS. Gee, Larry, fat fingers today. Okay. All right. So now we've read a record. Okay. And now we will say if the status of the read is less than 0, it's a failure. And then on a failure, we break. We exit the loop. Okay. So from this point on, we have a good read. And now we can compare the MD5 in the record read. Oh, we have record status itself, which is record user stat. Are they deleted or not, right? So the user stat is active, A, right? So we need to do that. So we will say if user record status, it's this one, is if it's not equal to A, which is active, what do we do? I guess we do continue. Then continue. I think that's what we should do. We've not reached an end of file. We've just found a record that's no longer active. So we just skip the rest of this logic. Now, we didn't increment the record number. Wow. So immediately after a good read, we need to go ahead and increment the record number, right? So that's what we'll do here. All right. Okay. Read the record. If the record is bad, leave. If the record, so then go ahead and increment the record number. If the record is not active, then don't do anything else, just continue, which means go back to the top of the loop and read the next record. Okay, that's all good. So at this point we have a good record. Now we need to see if the MD5 matches the one in the record. So here we would say if, oh, I don't know if we want to call that MD5. And MD5 is text because we store it as text. So that's text. Let's just call this the hash. And then up here we've got to have it. So right in here we're going to say MD5 hash, and that's a string. Okay. Okay, there we go. So we already created the string. And then down here we say if MD5 hash equals user_rec dot MD5. Now we've got a good a match. The user ID and the password match. So what do we do? What do we do? Well, user ID and username can get populated in here. That would indicate we had a valid logon. And since these are public, other units that reference this unit can see what's on that form for user ID and username. So I think what we'll do here is then say begin, and what do we call those up there? User ID, username. So we would say user name is equal to user_rec dot username. Now we could either use the name that's on the screen. It's been confirmed, right? So whatever's on the screen is correct at this point. We can just use that. We'll just use that. So that's just going to be edit, not edit, edt, and that's going to be user. Oh, no. All they typed in was an ID. So I do have to get it out of the record. Yeah. I do have to get it out of the record. He didn't type his name in. He just typed in his ID and password. It looked up his name. All right. But user ID, that was typed in. So we could just say edit, and that's user ID dot text, I think. Yes, text. Okay. So that takes care of that. And what else do we do when we have a successful logon? We set the ID, the name. Oh, we would do everything we do in here. Right, so we can just take this block of code, all of this, and plug it in there. Okay, so we'll copy that. That's Control C, and then we move down, and we put that, plug all that code in here. Control V. Alrighty. Okay. Okay, so that's what happens if we get a match. All right. What else do we do here? That's set visible to false. It executed the main menu unit, right? Here's visibility being set to false. Here's where the main menu form is shown. And then after it returns, we set visibility back to true. And we set user ID, we set the focus back to the user ID. I wonder if I should put an exit there. Okay, that's all true. And so there's our file exists begin, and that's file exists end. This is the end of what? The procedure? Oh, it's the end of the while. This is why I should put these in here, see? This is where it helps matching your stuff up when you're looking at it. So this is like end of what? Well, this is the end of the while, right? This is our loop. So I just put that in there. Control C, come down here. Control V, that tells me that. I know that's the end of the, if it's found. So if we've looped through the every record in the file and we get a bad status back, we break out of the loop, right? Which means we exit out here. If we exit out here, it means that it didn't find a match. So if we don't find a match, we do just like we did before, and we do this. We do all this stuff, right? That's where we would do all this. Control C. Okay. Yeah. And we just do a Control V here, insert all that stuff. Okay, that looks right to me. So we just put a little put a little comment here. No match on user ID and password. Password. Word. I've done that several places too. I'm going to have to find those places where I misspelled password. There are a few. Okay. And that's the end of this. Right? Okay. Now, I think if this will compile, I think we're back to being able to log on again. This time we have to log on as J. Smith I forgot the password we typed in. Well, I guess we'll have to try figuring that out. So let's save everything. And let's try to do a compile, see if we got any errors. Yeah, it looks clean. Unit types not used in unit logon. Really? It must be getting used. Oh, it's talking about types here. That's something that it automatically included. It says it's not being used. Okay, that's just some kind of warning. Kind of an informational warning or something. All right, we compiled, so we should be able to run this. And hopefully now we can log on with John Smith. See what happens here. So the user's name is J. Smith. And his password is capital ABC _ 1234. No. It didn't work, did it? Well, we've got some kind of a problem here. Stop that. Run should have stopped. It isn't running, is it? No, it's not running. Because stop is disabled here. It's grayed out, so we're good there. All right. I guess what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go down here in this code and see what executes and what's happening here. Where did I, I computed that up here, MD5 hash. Okay. Well, we ought to look in our user's DAT file. We haven't looked at what that record even looks like or how it got written. I think what would be the easiest way of looking in that file? Oh, we could just look at user rec when it comes back from the read. That's what we can do. Okay, so let's just set a breakpoint. Let's set a breakpoint here and run the program again, and then let's take a look at see what's going on in here. So we're going to run, and we're typing in J. Smith, and the password is A, capital A, lowercase bc, _ 1234. It's not even getting to this point. It's not even getting to this point. I didn't hit log on, did I? Helps if you hit logon. Okay. So the file does exist. Okay. And we're at the point where we're going to compute the MD5 hash. Maybe I goofed that up. You know? And this is what, F7? F7 is not what I wanted. Okay. There's our MD5 hash. All right, I think it's actually working. F8. So we're going to start with the first record. And we read it, and the status came back 0. Successful read. It's going to increment the record. What's user stat right now? It's A. Yeah, I think I goofed up when I first tested it. You have to actually click on logon. I hit enter or something, and that does not work like a button click. I think that's the problem. So it will miss that. Now it will do the compare. Oh, it failed. It did fail. MD5 hash is E and what's this? E. Maybe I have to cast this to a string. Better put my cheaters on and take a closer look at this code here. E9C76. E9C76, that's correct. And the last 4 digits are 327E. Ah, the last digits are not right. E9 C7 E9 C7 6C07 6C07 E459 E459 8A55 8A55 Oh, I wonder if I don't give it enough room. How long is this hash? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 30. It's 32 characters. Oh, I didn't allow for 32 characters. This is getting truncated when we wrote it. This is wrong. That's supposed to be 32, not 16. Bug. I goofed that up. Yeah, this is supposed to be a 33 character, not 17 total. It's 30, 0 to 32 is 33. That's what that should have been. So that when we created that record with user add the other day, it's wrong. Okay, well, we just found a bug. So let's Control S, save that change to our user record. And now we got to delete that file. So we need to go into Lazarus, and we're doing YouTube code right here. And somewhere in here, here it is. This is the file that we created. And it's wrong. Let's delete that. Okay. So we're going to rerun this. Well, that's a good test. We'll be able to see if it falls back to using our backdoor. Because now this file does not exist. So this backdoor should come back to us, right? And then we should be able to use that to go in and add a new record. And then once that new record's in there, we should be able to log on with the new record. Okay. So we have to recompile and then run. So F9 does all that. That recompiles and runs. Or was I still running? Oh, I was still running. I gotta stop. Okay. Now, let's run again. There we go. We were still running. All right. So now we're back to using backdoor. Should work. All right. Now hitting enter does not that does not do a logon. You have to click logon. There we go. And it let us in. And now we're going to go to users add, and we're going to add our John Smith, and the user's ID is capital JS lowercase mith, and our password is capital A lowercase bc underscore 1234, capital A bc underscore 1234. We're going to add them. The add worked, cleared the fields. Go back. Do we have a logout? We don't have a logout. That's something we should add, a logout. Oh, and I think exit will do that. Won't it? Is that still executing? No. Huh. So we don't have a logout. All right. So now we'll rerun it and see if we can log in. So let's just run it again. So now does backdoor work? That shouldn't work anymore, should it? BACK tab DOOR log on. Okay, so it's coming down here, and there won't be any such thing. So this will fail. Let's just hit F9. And back logon failed. All right. So now let's see if J Smith will work. JS, lowercase mith, tab, capital A, lowercase bc, underscore 1234. Click log on. Okay, and now we're trapped here. Now our MD5 string hasn't been computed yet, so I have to press F8. And is it computed now? Yes. Okay, so it computed that. F8. Now we're reading our record. And our status is 0, so it's good. And user stat is A, that's good. Our MD5 hash is that big long number. And our MD5 hash is now that big long number. Let's see if that works. It did. We're in. We're in. And it's not letting me see these. They don't exist anymore, I guess. I should still exist. Wonder why it's not letting me view those. It did the show modal. It did all that. So it did let me in. So it is working. All right. That's a success. Why is it saying, oh, it's coming back. It says log on failed. Why didn't it clear that? Why didn't it clear that? When this was equal to this, it was supposed to set these things. Let's close that. We should not be running at this point. If I check the run thing, yeah, it's not running. Why didn't it, maybe F8, it just executed the whole thing and it fell right through. So what I should have done here, see, here's panel status getting set to blank. Why didn't all that happen? It executed my app. It didn't execute this stuff up here, did it? I ended up with a logon failed. The file does exist. So none of this should have executed. Right? Right. Okay, well, what I think I ought to do is I ought to set a trap here. And see if this gets triggered. It's got to be getting triggered. Let's run it again. Okay, so it's capital JS MITH, password ABC 1234. Click log on. Yes, okay. And here's username, John Smith. And username's going to get set to that, so let's F8. Is username now set? Yes, John Smith. User ID, is that now set? J Smith. Panel status caption gets cleared. The user ID and password text in the window get cleared. And I'll hit F9 because that's what's going to happen. And it does its thing. Now exit. I want to close the window, so I hit close. Logon failed. That's interesting. How did logon failed happen? Something, you know what? I think I've got to do an exit. I think it's falling through in this code somehow. I think I need an exit here. Exit. Yeah, I think that's the problem. Let's save that change. Let's run it again. I think that's what's happening. So it's J Smith ABC underscore 1 2 3 4, and then we click the logon button, and it does this whole thing. We hit F9, and I close the window. There we go. That was the problem. You have to exit out here, otherwise it just falls through the bottom of this code, and it comes up with that logon failed stuff. So that you have to exit at this point. Okay, that's better. So we had a successful logon. Now, let's go into the terminal and let's take a look at the file itself. Let's look at a record in the file. We're going to do like a hexadecimal dump. So I've got to change directories. Let's do an ls, and we want to go into Lazarus. So cd Lazarus, and it's U2, so it's YOU something. No such thing. Oh, yeah, poo. OU anything. There we go. And we're looking in our current directory, and we want to see users dat. Users dat's right here. So we're going to do a hex dump C to show characters, I think. And then we want to look at users.dat. Hex dump. No such file or directory. What did I type in? I typed in useres. That's not so good. Users. How about that? There we go. So we get a dump of it. And the first character is an A, it's active. Then the next field is John Smith, and it goes all the way up to here. The little dots are nulls, okay. And then the next field is the user's ID, right? And it's J Smith. And then the next field is the password and the user's ID concatenated. Right? And that's that long hexadecimal number that goes up to that dot. And then the last field is a U. That's the user's access, which we set to U. So that's our entire record. Okay. So it is writing it correctly. And it looks like we've got, I think there's 16 per line here. So that's 13. That's 29, 30, 31, 32. Yeah, that's correct. All right. It's working. Can exit out of that. All right. It's functional. So as soon as a user is created, you should not be able to use backdoor anymore. So let's run it again. And now we should not be able to type in backdoor. That should fail. BACKDOOR. Yeah, back logon failed. Back is the user's ID. So it's just saying back logon failed. All right. All right. And JSmith works. JSMITH ABC _ 1 2 3 4 tab enter. That works. So our logon is now working. Very good. That is excellent. And we can close by doing that, and that takes us back. I don't know why I have to double click the close window button. Something's probably happening in my code there that's making that happen. My guess. All right. Well, that's it for today. We've got logon working, and we're calculating the MD5s, we're comparing, we're doing everything that we need to do to have a successful logon. I'm going to do some thinking about where we're going to go from here. I'm thinking maybe we want to write the other 3 functions for users, which is delete and change. So I think the next time we'll probably do a change window that allows us to look up a current user and then make changes to them. I think that's the next logical step. So until then, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. And as usual, if you like the content, give me a like. And if you want to see more of the same, subscribe. Have a nice day.